Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, March 30th, and you don't know what that means, but occasionally it happens. It's time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, looking forward towards that dynasty. It is me, Jeremy Pierce. Welcome, one and all. You know you can check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course the 215 on Twitter. And today's show, well, the Tessa Blanchard Conundrum. Yeah, she has returned to TNA, and clearly we have to talk about it. But for now, you know what's next, so just go on and hit my music. Seeing as how we're talking about Tessa Blanchard today, these are the 5 most toxic women currently in professional wrestling. We start with number 5, Bianca Belair. Now, she's on this list because she has started to reach John Cena levels of winning, and it's getting really, really tiring. It's nothing against her as a person, nothing against her as a character. It's all about her booking. It's just like, yo, she always wins. And speaking of Bianca, we move to number 4, Charlotte Flair. We know everything about Charlotte Flair. Nepo baby, excellent, fantastic talent in the ring. But when you face Charlotte Flair, you're pretty much going to lose. That's just how it happens, especially if there's a championship on the line. She's winning it. And I feel sorry for Tiffany Stratton because a lot of us think she's probably going to lose. You really don't want to be in a feud with Charlotte Flair. Number 3, Ivelisse. Now, Ivelisse has all the talent in the world, but something just consistently holds her back. And after the situation with Thunder Rosa, we don't know whose side is, on the right side, but one's clearly still in the company and the other one isn't in the company. And I'm a fan of Ivelisse, but she might have just rubbed some people the wrong way and just has not been able to get hired. Number 2, Tessa Blanchard. We're going to dive into this, but we hear everything. We know the stories, the racism, the bullying, the attitude, so on and so forth. But somehow, some way, she is able to be hired again because, well, talent trumps everything. And number 1, Britt Baker. The once face of the AEW women's division is nowhere to be seen after pretty much being the whole division, being elevated over other talents, leaving, coming back, and having an absolutely disastrous match in return with Mercedes Moné. We're putting more of that on Britt than does Mercedes. Getting to it backstage with MJF and his girlfriend at the time. Britt's not here anymore. She's still in the contract, but we know once you disappear from TV, everything is over for you. We'll be right back. The spotlight is back on once again, and it is shining on our current Women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra Valkyria. Now, the WWE clearly has faith in her. She's a 2-time NXT Women's Champion, had a feud with Becky Lynch defeating her for the championship, and then inevitably losing the championship back to Lyra Valkyria. So that's Becky passing the torch, putting her over. And not only that, Lyra made it to the finals of Queen of the Ring and then lost in the finals. And then in the new Intercontinental Women's Championship tournament, she won that. So they clearly see something in her, but something isn't clicking. She's slowly getting over with the fans, and they are putting over as this plucky underdog who can get wins out of nowhere, but the booking still is just not clicking. When you compare that to what's going on with Chelsea Green, the Women's United States Champion, you can see what I'm talking about now. There is hope for Lyra Valkyria because she's got a long and bright future ahead of her, but something has to give, and she's got to get over that hump, and I'm not putting all of that on her. She's got the championship. Let her defend it at WrestleMania. Give her a few. WrestleMania is a few weeks away. Build up something. No multi-man matches. 1-on-1. We'll be right back. It was inevitable. her comeback was going to happen. Tessa Blanchard is back in TNA, back in professional wrestling. And with that comes, well, a lot of baggage. The thing is, the talent is undeniable. If you ask me 2, 3, 4 years ago, give you the top 5 women's wrestlers, she'd be in that list for sure. Probably still is in that list, but things change. So we have to talk about the conundrum that is Tessa Blanchard. We're going to start off with just a quick look at her career up until the Impact firing. Okay, so she started out on the independent scene, Queens of Combat. This is back in 2014, and was all over the place. She was in Women's Superstar Uncensored. She was in Shine. She inevitably made her way to Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground has a very, very strong legacy. We're gonna talk about Lucha Underground at some point. We got to dive into that, but she was a real mainstay there. But she lost to Valkyria in a dark match and wrestled on and off, right? And then she began wrestling intergender matches. She wrestled for Shimmer. She wrestled for Stardom. And then she eventually made her way to NXT, which we'll dive into that a little bit more, right? So she would wrestle Dominik Dijakovic. She was in mixed tag team matches with Ricochet and Bea Priestley and Ospreay. She went on to defeat Mercedes Martinez to win the Women's Superstar Uncensored championship. So things are looking very, very good for her. She made her way to Rise Wrestling, where she wrestled Mercedes Martinez in a 75-minute Iron Woman match. Let that sink in. This is the longest women's wrestling match in history. Over the Elimination Chamber, over the Royal Rumble, over anything, over other women's Iron Man matches. She and Mercedes Martinez, a legend in her own right, put on a 75-minute classic. She went on to defeat Lacey Lane and Santana Garrett to win the Crash Women's Wrestling Championship. Lacey Lane is the current Kaden Carter. She would go on to defeat Britt Baker, Chelsea Green, and Madison Rayne in the 4-corner survival match at All In. The very first All In. She was on that card. So Tessa's out here making a name for herself, showing you just how good she is. And she's doing this without, the nepotism, because she's the daughter of Tully Blanchard, a legend. She then makes her way to the WWE in 2016 and wrestled in the Mae Young Classic. Okay, she had a few matches on NXT, losing to Alexa Bliss, losing to Nia Jax, losing to Carmella, and she then finally wrestled in the Mae Young Classic, where she lost in the first round to Kairi Sane, the eventual winner that year. I believe that was the 2017 Mae Young Classic. So she doesn't get signed, because usually what happens is when back in the day when they would do those tournaments, the Cruiserweight Classic, the Mae Young Classic, a lot of those people got signed, like a lot of them. If we look at the names just from the 2017 Mae Young Classic, Abby Lath, Aisha Raymond, Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Jazzy Gabert, Kairi Sane, Kavita Divide, Kaylee Ray, Lacey Evans, Marty Bell, Mercedes Martinez, Mia Yim, Miranda Salinas, Nicole Savoy, Piper Niven, Princessa Sugarcane, Rachel Evers, Reina Gonzalez, Renee Michelle, Rhea Ripley, Sage Beckett, Santana Garrett, Sarah Logan, Serena Deeb, Shayna Baszler, Tayanara Conti, Tessa Blanchard, Toni Storm, Vanessa Bourne, Xia Li, Zeta. More than 75% of that field got signed by the WWE. And there are others that didn't get signed, went on to be great wrestlers somewhere else. So the fact that she didn't get signed was already your first telling sign, right? So she goes and wrestles in Stardom. between 2016 and 2017 after not getting signed by NXT. She does good work there, wrestling Yoko Bito, wrestling Chris Wolf, wrestling Hiroyo Matsumoto, and she's doing well. But the glass ceiling broke when she was signed to Impact, right? And there is when her career really, really took off. She debuted at the Redemption pay-per-view, joining the commentary team during a match between Kiera Hogan and Taya Valkyrie. Later, she attacked them. She went on to defeat Kiera Hogan in her first match, and then at Slammiversary, she would score her first pay-per-view win, defeating Ali. So we see what's coming, right? She would then go on to have a couple feuds before eventually winning the Knockouts Championship for the first time, right? And she's defending that championship. She's being a really solid champion. She loses it. She gets it back. Has a really, really good feud with Taya Valkyrie. She would go on to feud with Gail Kim. And Gail Kim gave her the push, gave her the over. Kim praised her. And then TNA/Impact did something that hasn't been done before. 2019, on July 7th, Blanchard competed against Sami Callihan in the first ever intergender match to headline a professional wrestling pay-per-view. This took place at Slammiversary 27. She lost. Following the event, her and Callihan were randomly paired as tag teams in the Monster Mashup tournament, and they won, defeating a few other teams, Dave Chris, Trey Miguel, and she then went on to win a number one contenders match to become the world champion. She lost. She later competed in an X Division ladder match, which was won by Ace Austin, but we see what's going on. Then, November 19th of that year, she won a gauntlet match against Dega, her future husband / ex-husband, Moose, Rich Swann, Michael Elgin, and Brian Cage, become the number one contender for the Impact World Championship. And at Hard to Kill in 2020, she defeated Sami Callihan to become the world champion. She became the world champion and will go on to defend that championship against men, against women. She became the first woman to become world champion in a professional wrestling company. Now, COVID struck, and she had to take a leave of absence because obviously COVID. And all TNA Impact wanted her to do was to cut promos. That is it. Cut promos, and we'll get you back in America when we can. Cool. But eyes were bigger than her heart. Eyes were bigger than her head. She just refused. Well, she was stripped of the championship and then let go. How do you fumble the bag like that? You were the world champion. Disappeared for reasons we'll let you know. Joined WOW. That didn't work out. You were going to be the face of WOW. They were bringing back WOW. Wrestled in AAA, where she's well known. Wrestled in CMLL, where she's well known, and finally made her return to TNA. And that's where we stand. That's where we stand. So what ultimately happened with her? Well, let's look at her firing. TNA made you their world champion. They made you their world champion. Let me say this again, folks. TNA made Tessa Blanchard their world champion. Not the Knockouts champion, the world champion. She's fighting men and women. TNA has no issue doing intergender matches. And you couldn't cut a few promos? Record some video? Send it in? Like this is unprecedented. And you let it slip away. You can't hold the championship hostage. TNA had no choice but to fire her. TNA had no choice but to let her go. So while that happens, people are thinking, Tessa, why Why are you like this? Didn't get signed by the WWE when you clearly should have been signed by the WWE. You keep wrestling everywhere because the talent is immeasurable that she has. And yet, so she fumbles the bag with that. So then we get the news. We get everything that's coming out. Her and Chelsea Green. That's the first. We already talked about the rise and fall of Chelsea Green. And Chelsea responds to Tessa on Twitter saying, "You've constantly put down, bullied, and belittled countless female co-workers, including me. This is that support," because Tessa was talking about supporting other women, and the floodgates open. Remember, she got stripped of the championship. She was let go, and the major wrestling promotions were distancing themselves from her. So we have these accusations of bullying, and people are like, yeah. And Chelsea Green is calling for accountability. She says she doesn't wish self-harm or thoughts of suicide on anyone. Hope she's found peace. So this was a response to another interview Tessa had did about her personal struggles after the TNA title win and the release and the strip. And others came forward. Allison Kay accused Blanchard of using a racial slur against a black women's wrestler in Japan. We're going to get to that. Isla Dawn claims she experienced verbal abuse and attempts to be blacklisted from other companies by Tessa. So this is Tessa's way of trying to climb to the top by stepping over others in the industry, others that are there for you, that are supporting each other. So then we have the accusations of racism against, I believe it's La Rosa Negra, a wrestler over in Mexico. And Tessa didn't deny it, but she didn't accept accountability for anything. So she come forward and she states that that's not her. That's never been me. I have a history. I don't have a history of being that way. I don't have a history of using that language, and that's the end of it, right? It's just not who I am. That's what everybody says. And this reputation for Tessa. Tessa is one of the most talented and gifted women's wrestlers on the planet, and yet companies don't want to work with her. So are the companies at fault, or is Tessa at fault? That's what we're trying to figure out. You know what I mean? And she says she's never engaged in bullying. She's never engaged in racist behavior. But when everybody says it, right? Unless this is just a massive campaign against Tessa Blanchard. Hell, Allison Kay said, who was one of the first to accuse Blanchard, said she spit in a black woman's face in Japan and called her the N-word. While Shannon stated that Blanchard did more nasty stuff in Japan. And we don't even have all the details about that. So what truly is it that has Tessa doing this? The racism, the bullying, and she's denying all of it. But something has to be true. Somewhere, something has to be true. And she admits that she had suicidal thoughts and she wanted to end it all after the racism allegations came out, because one of the worst things you can be called in this world is a racist. Now, her and La Rosa Negra made amends for what? We don't know. But the accusations haven't gone away. And It's still persisting today. So she's back in TNA, and the way they've handled this, they just not acknowledged it. You can hear the chants, you can hear the calls, and they're not shying away from it, but again, they're not acknowledging it, and they're just going on pushing Tessa. She's going to become world champion this year, knockouts champion this year. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, because talent trumps, for the most part, trumps anything. So she's back in TNA, and she's kind of worked with a few WWE talent, because NXT and TNA have this crossover promotion going on, and yet she's only worked with maybe one or two people. Hell, Jordynne Grace ended up putting over Tessa on her way out the door to NXT. So Tessa Blanchard, the uber talented, the amazing wrestler that she is a black eye on wrestling. But we all love a redemption story, and we all love a comeback. And again, from her perspective, again, she's not offered an apology at all, because she believes she didn't do anything wrong. We just have to wait and see. So what is the future for her? What is the lessons to be learned? We have to have the dialogue. You have to call out people, and you have to make sure people are accountable. Because the end game for Tessa Blanchard is eventual champion. It's not going away. She's here to stay. Hell, AEW didn't want to sign her. And they're the clear number 2 promotion. They at a time when their women's division was lacking star power, Tessa Blanchard as a free agent was sitting right there, and they didn't sign her. So clearly something is up, where you can only wrestle in Mexico and you can only wrestle in TNA. Something is up. I'm very curious to see how the rest of this crossover with TNA and NXT plays out, with Tessa Blanchard being there. Because don't get me wrong, I'm a sadist, and I would love to see Tessa go up against Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Bayley. I can keep on going. But will it happen? Will those who are currently in WWE, who have made the accusations against her, allow that to happen? Guess we gotta wait and see. Guess we have to find out. But that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Look on the screen what we got coming up. Psych! Gotta get the April schedule ready. Should have it out by Tuesday. Check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube. Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Anna J, Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, Gigi Dolan, Isla Dawn, and Bailey. Holla at your boy. Peace.